and welcome to Dialectable. My name's Joe and I'm making videos about accents and dialects of English. Not only that though, I'm also studying linguistics at the University of Lancaster, so I can't really not make a video about the linguistics of the Lancashire dialect. So here we are. Lancastrian is spoken, as you might expect, in Lancashire by pretty much everyone brought up in Lancashire. So unlike Cockney and MLE, it's not a sociolect because basically everyone in the region will speak in a pretty similar way regardless of social class. The area it's spoken in roughly follows the borders of historical Lancashire, whose size was decreased in the 1970s when there were a lot of border changes in England. Historical Lancashire covers most of the modern-day county, plus a bit of the Lake District to the north, and the cities of Manchester and Liverpool to the south. You may be familiar with the comedians John Richardson.
Hey David, it's Johnny here from Lancaster.
And Johnny Vegas.
This is why I struggled in school!
As well as the cast of Wallace and Gromit.
I don't know, lad. It's like no cheese I've ever tasted.
And maybe some footballers like Danny Welbeck.
It's a disappointment in and around the camp, and we know this is such a massive club and we should be doing much better than we are at the moment.
Or Marcus Rashford.
I think when I was younger I used to work on speed of my feet a lot, so I think kind of from there it just develops and grows.
Like with Geordie last time, I grew up too far away from Lancashire to be able to do a decent impression of a Lancastrian, so I've roped a couple in to help me out. As always, we'll start with phonology, and if you've seen my first video, click here if you haven't, you'll know about some common features that a lot of British dialects share. The interesting thing about Lancastrian is that it's currently in a period of change regarding two of them, namely rhoticity and th fronting. For example, Adam, say this word.
For.
So a few generations ago, the Lancastrian would probably have pronounced that more like for, but people in the area have largely stopped pronouncing the R's after the vowels, like in most other dialects in England, and some people, mainly younger people like Adam and Ben here, have started fronting their THs, F instead of th, as well as v instead of the.
Ver brother.
Aspects of the dialect that haven't changed too recently include, as you might have heard just then,
Brother.
the put-put merger,
Put.
as well as lack of a bath trap split.
Bath. Trap.
As well as that, Lancastrians tend to use shorter vowels than Southerners do, so instead of saying, I've seen him making food, you'll hear,
I've seen him making food.
That's not to say that E and A don't exist in Lancastrian, they do. Actually, A is more like ear. But they're less common. Words that use those vowels in Southern English are liable to use the shortened vowel in Lancashire, another example being taking.
Tacking.
The biggest difference affecting the consonants of Lancastrian has to do with how the L phoneme is realised. In the south of England, you have what's called light L and dark L. That is, when the L is closer to the beginning of a syllable, we say L, as in lamp or filling. And if it's closer to the end, you'll hear L, as in belt or full. If you can't hear the difference, compare how I pronounce the L's in the word little. Can you hear that? The back of my tongue is much higher in the second L than in the first. Little. Lancastrian, on the other hand, uses dark L a lot more, and some people use it to the exclusion of light L. So for them, regardless of whether you're saying lime, slime, build or bile, the L will always sound the same.
Lime, slime, build, bile.
Probably the most famous aspect of Lancastrian phonology, though, is how the word the is treated, which has often been satirised as being reduced to a t sound.
What is it I'm seeing here today? Toot one, toot which and toot one, yeah?
What really you'll hear in the middle of a sentence is something like,
I was at the pub.
or as I heard literally as I was writing the script for this video,
I live up road.
with a glottal stop before the noun. Now, as I mentioned earlier, whether you have a Lancastrian accent isn't really dependent on social class. If you grow up in the area, you're pretty much guaranteed to speak some version of the dialect. The only slight exception to this is vocab and slang, which is more common in the lower registers, definition. And if you come from a higher social class, you're not as likely to use those registers as often. Examples of such vocabulary include words like
No.
meaning nothing and
Murder.
which means sulky or moody. And the meals are famously different from Southern English. Where I have breakfast in the morning, lunch in the middle of the day and dinner in the evening, Lancastrians have breakfast in the morning, dinner in the middle of the day and tea in the evening. To which I say, why are you restricting yourselves to only having tea in the evening? Yeah, I probably deserve that look. If you're interested in this, I put a link in the description to a site with a whole list of Lancastrian vocabulary with their standard English translations, so go and have fun with that. One of the most notable grammatical features of Lancastrian is that some of its speakers have actually kept the Shakespearean second-person pronouns thou and thee, as well as a few verb conjugations that go with them, mainly in informal settings these days. So instead of I'm warning you and have you seen him, you might hear
I'm warning thee.
and
Has they seen him?
those constructions are dying out though, and that fact coupled with the intrusion of new features like th fronting and non-rhoticity is, I think, quite a beautiful example of how language is in a constant state of flux, always changing and never static. Join me next time for a dialect that's gone through such a massive evolution in the past 50 odd years that it's almost unrecognisable from how it was before. Scouse is coming up next. See you then.